All right, next one is from a guy that you guys always want me to watch, and I'm glad that you do. It's Ray's Guide. It's Star Citizen. Are you a Pyro player? Not really sure. So I think what's starting to happen here is with Pyro coming, they're starting to try and literally segregate the player base. Is like the people who I'm not sure if this is what's happening here, but I'm getting the feeling that the player base is trying to segregate each other from each other, and I don't think that's the point of Pyro. So I think it's going to be easier for pirates to live in and around the Pyro system. I don't think it's going to be easy for anybody, first off, but it's going to be easier. But I don't think that non-pirate players are going to want to be there either. So we'll see. But I'm confused. I'm confused by the title. I'm interested. So let's just go.
Hello, this is Danny Raymond, the voice behind Ray's Guide. We keep getting more information about Pyro, for example, the recent lore article, and we are increasingly becoming aware that Pyro is going to be a very different place than Stanton. And while undoubtedly everyone will rush to Pyro for the novelty of it at the start, and many will occasionally make a excursion there for one purpose or another, only a minority will make it their permanent primary zone of operations.
Okay.
Those are the people I am calling the Pyro players. And in this video, I'm exploring what will be the
It's a very nice way of saying griefer.
characteristics of the Pyro player, and hopefully cause you to think about whether you are one or not. And to preface this, I'm going to say that by Pyro, I am talking about the time of introduction at 4.0, plus a little to sort things out, let's say 4.2. So sure, player bases may change things entirely, years from now, that's not part of my scope of this video.
I'm a little worried that a player who Ray doesn't seem like the PKer type, characterizing something or someone that doesn't partake in the activity is not going to go well, but let's see.
And bear in mind that CIG wants the players to spread themselves around between Pyro and Stanton, and also within each one of those systems, because that allows server meshing to have the greatest benefit for increasing shard player counts. So Pyro not being for everybody is exactly what they want, and not a problem at all. And the first thing to ask about being a Pyro player is, are you ready for a challenge? Because Pyro, compared to Stanton, will feel like somebody flipped a hard switch on Star Citizen. And again, that's not a problem. It's a standard construct of online games. There are easy zones and hard zones. Stanton is one of the beginning planets and thus is automatically intended to be an easier place. And
I should have prefaced everything that I said with Ray has consistently been one of the most logical people on YouTube when it comes to Star Citizen, and it shows. Like, my assumptions about just your standard Star Citizen player and Pyro and griefer types, like, immediately came in, and then his first point is just, like, totally balanced, totally logical, totally makes sense.
May well become easier after Pyro is there to be the more difficult place. So Pyro is intended to be a hard zone, and it should be utterly unsurprising. But hard zone is going to mean greater rewards, right? Maybe. Many games, for example RTS games, have the extreme difficulty levels be rewarding simply for the bragging rights of beating it at that level.
Yeah.
And in some of those games, what makes extreme difficult extreme is the lack of money. I'm
Being
not sure
able to
what all
live
the
in
levers
Pyro
are that
would
CIG
be a
will pull
challenge,
to make
and
Pyro
to
more
pull it off would
challenging
be
planet. But don't presume that
awesome.
more rewards has to be part of the equation. Now, I'm sure some of you are going to be saying, well, of course Pyro is going to be hard because it's PvP. And while that may be true, I think you're giving yourself too much credit. The main reasons why Pyro will be hard mode will have nothing to do with PvP. If anything, it will make it even harder for people whose playstyle is constant mayhem for reasons that should become clear as I go along. First, let's start with the whole subject of consequences. In Stanton, you shoot up civilians and players and you get a crime stat and are denied entry to places. In Pyro, you shoot up civilians, we'll talk later about players, and you get bad reputation with the faction that they belong to, and when you go to certain places, bad things happen. So what's the difference? Well,
maybe long term. I don't know if we know that yet, though. Like, okay, so I think he's referring to takes, bounty missions, or the type. Like those type of missions, I think is what he's referring to. So if I do bounty missions in Pyro, I will lose rep with whatever faction controls that system, which I think is Xenothreat, right?
Where's the kiosk where you can use a crypto key to easily erase your bad reputation? There isn't one.
You don't know that, but probably not.
Where's the place that you can choose to be sent to at the end of your...
Oh, yeah, you do know that, because it's reputation. It's not crime stat. Sorry, mixed it up there.
Session, so you can start the next one with a clear reputation. There isn't one. Where's the place where you can get sent to and do a few maintenance tasks or mine a few gems and get all your reputation back? So the first thing that makes Pyro...
There might be one of those. The last one, I think that there might be one of those. Yeah, any PvE combat mission in Pyro might give you bad rep with somebody else.
Have that hard switch turned on is that the consequences of your decisions will be long and hard to get rid of. Even a character reset will likely not do it.
Stop pausing. Listen, okay? This video's been out for like 2 weeks. Chill, okay? You could have watched it, all right? But you're here, so now you're going to have to wait and listen to my points of view talking over his video, all right? So I think some of the points that he's making, though, are long-term reputation goals for Star Citizen that would also apply to Stanton. So just because I think Ray is taking what has been talked about, future reputation, where it's more long-term, that isn't, like, he's just applying it to Pyro when the same exact thing will happen in Crusader. So if I'm doing bounty missions and constantly killing Ninetales players, I'm going to lose rep with that faction. And it's going to remain there for a very long time unless I did something to flip it.
But you can still go wild around PvP, right, with other players. Well, I wouldn't be so sure about that. What we don't know yet is if I get a really good reputation with one of the Pyro factions, let's say the Fire Rats, would they start to regard attacking me as attacking one of their own? Would I wake up in the med bed with a message that said, "You were murdered by Grief Hobo 66, request retribution from the Fire Rats? Enter left bracket to accept, right bracket to decline." And by reputation, of course, I mean, or perhaps even more so, have the option to front money from my own account for the...
He's speculating, but I like that idea. I think that's kind of cool. If you get really high rep with somebody, you can have it lower their rep. Your Panthers don't give a fuck about reputation. I think they're going to, though. They're going to have to. Like, at least for a while, until the game really develops where you can kind of insulate yourself from regular game mechanics by using ships for everything. I feel like you're going to have to care about reputation for at least some time. He's trying to counter-grief me, and I don't like it.
The Fire Rats to create an assassination or kidnapping mission against Grief Hobo 66. This concept, a level of reputation high enough that the faction at least partly starts to regard you as one of their own, is something that I'll be returning to. Because what else would be the pinnacle of reputation with one of the gangs of Pyro? Again, I don't know if that's going to be the way Pyro works, but it certainly is in keeping with the lore and setting. And if that is the case, then before you as a PvPer decides to just pounce on some unsuspecting player, take a moment to consider, who might that player be connected to? So Wild West PvP may not be as common in Pyro as you think, which brings up the next big way in which Pyro will be different. You are going to have to care about local politics. Because knowing who you are good with and who controls where and who will let you land and who will, do this, I'm sure CIG will not hold the past against you, but the next time they decide to run a Xenothreat in Stanton, are you going to have to decide between participating in that and still having access to Ruin Station,
what's on the screen right now?
Xenothreat currently controls. Either way, best to leave your vintage CDF armor in the closet when you go there, But I
these
don't
are his
expect these things
members.
also to stay static. I expect a fairly common Pyro global event will be for some other group, say the Fire Rats, trying to displace Xenothreat as controllers of Ruin Station or some other strategic outpost.
How much copium is this guy smoking? None. I think he's taking what they've said about reputation and applying what he thinks will happen here a little bit. And I don't think anything is completely out of the realm of possibility.
Then you have to decide. Do I stay clear until the dust settles and see who emerges on top? Or do I throw in because it really would be better for me if control of the station changed hands? Or didn't? But if I do, I'd better hope to land on the winning side of that conflict, because if I don't, well, say goodbye to access to Ruin Station until some future coup. Now, bear in mind that the winner of any such conflict will need to be global. No being able to jump from a shard where Xenothreat controls Ruin Station to a shard where they don't. So in Stanton, you can care who is the Imperator or not. In Pyro, knowing who controls Ruin Station or a key outpost is not optional at all. All this ties into my third reason.
That would be cool if it was constantly flipping and we could flip it.
Of support locations. So let's do a quick inventory of where you can get help in Stanton. There are 4 major landing zones. Each of the planets also have an orbital cargo station.
Write this down,
Each of the planets have 5 Lagrange points, most of which have star bases. There is Grim Hex, and there are, by my count, 56 named player accessible outposts in the various planets and moons, most of which have service-providing landing pads.
Okay.
By comparison, Pyro has 1 barely functioning derelict space station, and per Todd Pappy at the last CitizenCon, 50 colonization-style outposts of unknown capability. And any of those might be locked out from you by your reputation. In addition, I think it's pretty safe presumption that Ruin Station and possibly other key locations will be camped by marauders pretty much constantly.
What are
and
marauders?
on a level that will make the old Port Olisar campground pale by comparison. So, for example, thinking that you'll be able to approach in a heavily damaged and depleted craft, hoping for a safe place to land at Ruin Station,
just
repair,
regular pirates, another
you
word
may
for
be
pirate.
in for a disappointment. And while we now have refueling in the Starfare, fuel was just one of the many services we got from these locations in the Stanton system. Let's go through them and discuss their Pyro possibilities. First, Habs. Where can you visit and have be your login point set if you are unable to log out in your bed because your ship doesn't have one, or the ship that you did log out of in bed, say your friend's Carrick, isn't in the game when you return? Well, it seems reasonable that Ruin Station might have Habs, but what about the colonization-style outpost? Nothing in the toolkit of concept art had been shown would include anything that looks like an apartment block. Some of the teased concept art did include private bedrooms, but does not look like there are a lot of them.
And it looks like that they're just art for NPCs. Again, remember, Ray, I think you're speaking way long term here. These kind of things are going to come to NPCs, and then one day we'll get them. But
I will make the presumption that if there's any habitation capability at all at the Pyro Outpost, which there may or may not be, it is restricted only to those people, again, with the highest reputation in the controlling organization. High enough that they would welcome you as one of their own as a guest and give you a guest orders. 2, the next is ship storage and retrieval. For this, you would need both hangars and some sort of equivalent of an ASOP terminal. Since Ruin Station at one time was a fully functioning station, I am going to presume that these are functioning at a minimal level there.
Yeah,
as for the
you
outpost,
would have to.
So far nothing in the tool set, the CitizenCon demos, or the concept art has quite met the description of either a hangar or an ASOP terminal. The CitizenCon
Do they have a landing pad at any of them?
demonstration outpost didn't give any clues, since even in the friendliest example, the ship was landing outside in the fields. But still, if they allow a high enough reputation player as a guest staying there, they will have to be able to do something with their ship, right? So I'm going to guess that if your reputation is at that extreme level that it will let you have a guest house, they will also have a small hangar that can be only used for the ship you came in on. Number 3, next comes medical. This involves both medical treatment for injury states and places where your regeneration image is stored.
Can we reasonably presume that anyone with CDF rep will be shoot on site? Yeah, probably. Or affinity or whatever it is? I think so.
And again, there has been some concept art of a clinic entrance at Ruin Station, so it's fairly evident there is an intent to have a public clinic with the similar capabilities of stations in Stanton. but I can only imagine the horror show behind that desk.
By the way,
Now,
what up, Chef
when
E?
it
I
comes
see
to
you there.
larger of the colonialism-style outposts,
I just didn't
again,
understand
we
the
don't see
missile
a medical
comment
module
earlier.
in the tool set or in the concept
I kept trying to
art
read it.
or in the CitizenCon demo. And that, on one hand, makes it hard to see a place like this being either capable or interested in running a public clinic. On the other hand, it is equally obvious that they wouldn't want to not have some approach for keeping their own people healthy and alive, which then again gets to that question of whether if you can achieve a high enough level of reputation.
Bro, this just tells me that, like, there's so much that, like, dude, I do not give two flying nerf herders about Pyro until it's actively in a situation where I can go there. So I don't really think about it much. There is a lot of stuff out there about Pyro that he's, like, pulling from that I have not paid attention to at all.
They do regard you as one of their own, at which point, again, they might let you into that back area where the med bed is. Number 4, refining. Now, I know you're going to say we're at the Expanse, but do we? Looking at the Q&A for the Expanse,
We don't.
ship-based refining isn't going to be just a simple port of station-based refining. And looking at the roadmap, there really isn't a lot of work being done on it. And since it is not needed for Squadron 42, there may not be anybody available to work on it. So I'm not sure that it will make my 4.2 criteria because I doubt that they will hold back 4.0 for lack of the Expanse refining. This outpost component, though, does look like it could be pressed into service with just a port of the refinery mining module, or at least until the Expanse is available. Number 5, reloading. The Vulcan is supposed to be able to make this available to us players, but again, looking at the roadmap does not give confidence that will be done by Pyro or even anytime soon after. So that will again have Ruin Station and whatever outposts have landing pads. Also expect it to be expensive. While they may have a fine supply of basic ballistic rounds, if you want something particular like an uncommonly available missile, you may have to first arrange having it brought from Stanton yourself.
And hopefully that is where the disconnect between the Pyro player and the Stanton player start to come together, is that the opportunities to make money are in Stanton, or excuse me, are in Pyro coming from Stanton. But yeah, no, we don't have a release date for Pyro.
By an org mate, possible with the cargo refactor. Number 6, repair. We are expecting there will soon be the ability to strip hull
Anything
material from
runners.
one craft and use it to patch the
Drocket.
skin of another. That will undoubtedly restore integrity and armor, but one would presume that it couldn't handle something like replacing a lost wing. For ships, that would presume the use of the Crucible, which is unlikely to be available prior to 4.0, or even as it appears nowhere on the roadmap. In Stanton, repair requires either a hangar or a landing pad. So that means yes for Ruin Station, plus I think a yes for more than a few of the outposts, although at hugely inflated cost compared to Stanton.
I think
I see outposts doing this.
I don't know what the plan is for the outpost landing pads in the future. They do seem a little too useful right now, but he is kind of breezing over the fact that there's like a number of moons. Like, what do we think? That there's just not going to be anything there? There's not going to be a landing pad there? There's not going to be a way to refuel at those? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. Like, he's basically implying that the outposts that we've seen from, like, the CitizenCon demo and everything, he doesn't see a pad, so he doesn't think that they're going to have anything like that there. I don't know. I think it'll be less, but it seems almost impossible to play in Stanton or to play in Pyro without some ability to repair, refuel, rearm. Is Ruin Station going to be the only place? He's right that it's supposed to be hard. And it's not going to be easy to do these things. That's why they made the Starfarer. So I think he's taking the assumption of like, hey, we made the Starfarer because there's not going to be places to refuel. Well, guess what? If there's not places to refuel, then there's not places to rearm. So it kind of makes sense. I think his points are making sense. I wonder what the outposts are going to provide to us then, because in many ways, the functionality of the outposts in Stanton are what gives the scale of Star Citizen, and I don't know if Pyro is going to be empty and nothing, and there's not a lot of functionality to the places you go. What are they going to provide to you? What are they going to give to you? Loot. Well, the problem with loot is in a lot of ways, the loot that's in the containers has no meaning, has nowhere near the meaning that quantum fuel has nowhere near the meaning that hydrogen fuel has nowhere near the meaning that being able to repair your ship has, right? So is it like drugs? Is it some sort of commodity that you could bring back to Stanton? What's going to be? It's that's where my mind is going after hearing a lot of his conversation so far.
On landing pads on the outskirts, mostly because it's an opportunity to be a money maker for the outpost. But what if you had a component destroyed, or that you want an upgrade to a ship component at these locations? If they have a replacement component at all, it will likely be junk from a derelict. So if you need a particular component or want a brand new one, you will need to be arranging for its procurement and delivery from Stanton yourself. Number 7. Now, I'm sure some of you heard me talk about repair, refueling, and rearming as being vastly more expensive and thought to yourself, forget that. Yeah.
I'll
just do an insurance
How's claiming
claim.
Your ship going to work?
Really? You will? Where? Because for insurance claims, you need not just an ASOP terminal and a big enough hangar, but also one more thing. You need to be in a place where the insurance company would feel comfortable delivering a ship to. Do you really think that an insurance company would feel safe delivering a shiny new ship to Ruin Station, where the ruling faction Xenothreat is radically opposed to all corporations? Really? And the other factions aren't that much better, and the delivery drivers will certainly not have the kind of reputation with the outpost that would allow them hangar rights. So it is definitely possible, even likely, that the only place where you can do an insurance claim in Pyro is no place. And
it's
that
a
getting
game,
an
yes,
insurance
to deliver
claim
it
on your ship means
I don't think so. I'm going to do a poll in Twitch chat right now. Will there be insurance claims in Pyro? Yes, no, and we can do some alternate version for a third option. We'll let that run for 5 minutes. There could be some sort of alternate version of it. Like instead of insurance, I don't know, maybe like a junker of some kind. It's not a game, so yeah, you can't call this a video game because it's not a video game.
Returning in Stanton.
So they can't
gamify
things.
Is it all negative about being a Pyro player?
Yet.
Oh, by no means, no. There's the pride of making it in the toughest of conditions. There's going to be a lot to be made in scavenging, marauding, and piracy.
So for alternates, it could be like a service beacon of some kind, perhaps.
The heavy metals deposits, whilst not enough to keep Amalgamated Pyrotechnic making their debt payments, should be plenty for an enterprising prospector or mole captain with less overhead to make bank. And while everything will be expected to be expensive, the player providing those desperately needed services like fueling and desperately needed supplies like ammunition can expect to be on the receiving end of those inflated prices. So while I have talked about the individual decision about whether to make Pyro your home, what about the decision of an org to become a Pyro org? How will organizing and running a Pyro org be different, and what you might want to do in the highly likely circumstances that not all of your org members will want to make the long-term relocation step? That will be the topic of my next video in this series. But now for an update on the Grow the Channel ship giveaway. As of recording,
I hope
we
he
are
was gonna
approaching
talk about it now.
2/3 of the subscriber goal.
It was what
and
I was most
56%
excited about. I
of
guess
the
we'll have to
membership
watch
goal
that
to
video.
give away someone's choice of either the Anvil Liberator, the ship-shipping ship for shipping your ships, or the Misk Odyssey long-duration exploration carrier. Members are entered automatically, and if the winner is a member as of the publication date of the winning video and at the drawing date, they will win both of the ships. For everybody else, just be a subscriber and comment with the secret word.
It's a
And
massive
the secret word
giveaway.
for this video is the name of the switch that it will feel like was flipped for Pyro. Fly safe, keep it real, and I'll see you in the verse. This is Danny Raymond for Ray's Guide.
Thank you, Danny Raymond, for Ray's Guide. That was an interesting conversation to have. I thought that was really. I feel like Pyro is going to be hard for everybody. So there's going to be like an easier way of like not having to deal with prison for pirates, but there's going to be the other like logistical problems that are going to come in. And that's where I hope I can find myself is I've always liked piracy, or not piracy, but like PKing in games. I've always liked PvP, but I've never really been good at it. And I've always wanted to be a part of it. I was good at it in one game, but like I like to be a part of it, but I feel like my part of it is like more of the like the other roles of it, you know? So like when the types of I always played like a support type player. So what does a support player look like in Star Citizen? I don't know. Maybe a Mantis pilot, or bringing items to them, to, you know, making deals, that kind of stuff. So we'll have to see. Pyro has some interesting implications for stuff like that. I hope we get a trading interface between players before Pyro comes in, because I think that would be really, really exciting.